Welcome to ELNET's briefing on the Israel-Hamas war. My name is Emmanuel Navon, and I'm the CEO of ELNET Israel. Some Israeli hostages have been freed, but Hamas has already come up with excuses not to honor the agreement with Israel. Hamas is pure evil. It is torturing psychologically the families of hostages and of all Israelis. Reaching a deal with this genocidal gang was a huge dilemma. But the Israeli government, supported by the will of the people, decided to go for it because we put life and human dignity before everything. We are a free country facing an oppressive regime, a life-loving people fighting a death cult, a law-abiding government dealing with gangsters. And yet, many in the West are siding with the oppressive regime, with the death cult, and with the gangsters. This includes Greta Thunberg, who sang yesterday, "We will crush Zionism" during a demonstration in Sweden. Under the banner of climate change, she's calling for the elimination of Israel. But this also includes the New York Times, which titled, quote, "2 dozen hostages are freed," end quote, with a picture of a smiling Palestinian prisoner draped into a Hamas flag. Too few innocent Israelis are finally freed from the hands of evil murderers, but the New York Times cheers at the release of convicted terrorists that were serving a jail sentence. There's no equivalent between the Israeli hostages and the Palestinian prisoners. On the one hand, you have innocent children, parents and grandparents who were abducted from their homes by murderers and rapists dedicated to the elimination of all Jews. On the other hand, you have convicted criminals who sat in jail for murdering or trying to murder innocents. This is not an exchange of hostages. And yes, we've agreed to release 3 times the amount of those criminals than the innocent civilians we're supposed to get back because we've been extorted by Hamas. And we've agreed to be extorted because we value the life of our citizens as much as they despise the life of theirs. Instead of being praised for willing to pay a disproportionate price for its civilians, Israel has been accused of racism for doing just that. Sky News journalist Kate Burley asked an Israeli government spokesperson if this disproportion was not a clear indication that to us, an Israeli has 3 times more value than a Palestinian. Yes, you heard that well. Facing widespread outrage at her moronic question, Kate Burley tweeted the next morning that she had merely brought up what she called a controversial view. No, Kay, you didn't bring up a controversial view. You gave credence to an idiotic, evil, and defamatory accusation. Make no mistake, Israel's war of self-defense will restart the moment the temporary pause is over. There is no contradiction between war and the release of hostages. On the contrary, Hamas did not release hostages despite the war, but because of it. It is only because Hamas is now on the defensive that it is willing to pay a price for the truce it needs. So if we want all our hostages back, we must continue to fight. And we will. Until all our hostages are brought back to Israel, and until Hamas is denied the ability to kill Israelis.